Hello, everyone. How are we today? Hopefully, today you find yourself in a better situation than you were in yesterday. We are going to discuss quite a few things today. I'm broadcasting on multiple streaming services. On here, this is my real estate page. Here, this is Coach Renz, and right here is on my Facebook page. And today we're going to talk about basically how we can use economic changes in our mindset, how we function in order to bring about a higher degree of equality. Let's face it, the world is on fire. And this issue is a disease of the mind, it's a disease of our culture. And we must all do our part. It is not one solution that is going to solve this issue, solve the police brutalities. It's not one issue that's going to solve poverty. It's not one issue that's going to solve equal voting. It is multiple issues on multiple fronts, and we must fight all fronts. And today, no ranting, no raving, no political, religious fighting. Today is very simple. It's very, very simple. If we have a desire to have equality amongst everyone, then one of the ways that we decrease the amount of stress between people, between our nation, between people around the world, is to have a fair situation where everyone has the opportunity to become financially great, to have an opportunity to live a lifestyle that is comfortable for them, that they enjoy. So we're going to go over, as a real estate agent, we're going to go over some financial understandings that many people do not have that we need to have. And this is going to go against some of the conventional wisdom that you have all been taught your entire life. And here's the thing, some of the things that you've been taught have taught you how to be poor and how to not have a voice and not have power. It is well known that in every community, if you own the property of the house that you live in, then you have a greater voice. If you're in a better financial position, you have a greater voice. So today I'm going to teach you some things about finances and about buying a home so that you can have a greater voice in your community. Because if you are a renter in an area, then your voice is not heard. It's just not. That's just the way it is. People who pay taxes on property, voices are heard. People who own the property, voices are heard. So, as a real estate agent, I come against situations where people are not prepared to buy a home, although they believe that they should, they want to. They've been to some seminar where they've said that they want to, that you can buy a house, and you're not in that position. So, in order to foster this, get you in position to do so, there are a few budgetary things, financial education, financial literacy, things that you need to have in order to make a purchase of a house so that you can find a higher degree, a higher level of equality within your neighborhood. And this bodes well for your children. When your children see that you own the house that you live in, then they are more apt to buy a house. When they see that because you own the house, you care more about your neighborhood, more about your area, then you are more apt, that your children will be more apt to do the same. So we're going to quickly, not going to take a lot of time, we're going to quickly go over some things, and I'm going to give it to you from a real estate advisor's position, because I am Agent Reed of Remax Metro Realty. And as your real estate advisor, I'm going to break this down for you. I'm also the owner of Uncle Renz Popcorn. So I'm also telling you this as someone who owns a business and has owned many businesses. Over the last 20 years, I have had a job maybe 2% of the time of the last 20 years. So let's get this done, and I want you to understand that what I'm saying is what I know. This is what I know. It's not what I think. It's not one of those things you go to those seminars and they try to tell you how you can buy a house by doing all these crazy things, or how you can flip properties and you're not able to do it. Now let's establish this right off the whip before I get into some other aspects of it. Many people will say, I want to flip houses. I want to be a real estate investor. What's your credit look like? Because I'm telling you this, if your credit is bad, it's very unlikely that you're going to be a real estate investor. Now, I know some people go to programs and they say, well, hey, all you have to do is find the hard money lenders and you go get the contracts. You get the contract on a house. You find you have your hard money lenders. You know what kind of houses they like. You get that contract. You get the contract from the homeowners who's struggling to sell their home, especially a for sale by owner. They're struggling. So you get the contract on that house, you take it to your hard money lender, and then your lender buys the contract from you, and you make your $10,000 and you walk away. You see YouTube commercials, Facebook commercials about this all the time. You go to the little seminars and you see this going on all the time. But the truth of the matter is that maybe 2% of the people who actually go to these seminars are actually able to do this. They'll tell you that there are plenty of hard money lenders out there. If you go through our process, learn through our company, we will be that hard money lender and do the deals with you. They tell you all these things. Trust me, I've been to many of them with other people and to listen and to gain an understanding of what they're teaching. And the fact of the matter is, 99% of the time, 98% of the time, if you want to become a real estate investor, you have to do it yourself. And it's not a get rich quick program. Becoming a real estate investor takes time, takes effort. And one of the first portion of your time you have to take is to fix your credit. Fix your credit. I've done many videos on how to fix your credit. But we're going to go over a couple of quick things. Now, I did write a book called Financial Alchemy. It's on my Coach Renz, R-E-N-Z page. And so I did write a book. Has everything in it for you to be able to fix your credit. It's only $19.99. It's a guide. It has all the letters in it that you will need in order to fix your credit. This process of fixing your credit starts by you understanding, and we're going to speak from the perspective of buying a house as well, starts from the understanding that buying a house has a different credit score than getting a car loan or getting a credit card. Your FICO 8 score, which is the one that you see most of the time on your Credit Karma, Experian, Equifax, all those programs, those are your on your bank if they give it to you, your Discovery if they give it to you, that is your FICO 8 score. That is not the same score that the banks and mortgage companies use. The banks and mortgage companies use a different Advantage score, which is a little bit lower. It's going to be lower than your FICO 8 score. So when you are looking at your credit score through any of these programs, recognize that your mortgage company is going to look at a different one. Now, the mortgage company is also going to do this. They're going to take your highest score. So you got Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. They're going to take your highest, and they're going to take your lowest, and they're going to pick the one that's in the middle. So it's not your highest credit score. So if you're running around saying that, oh, I got a 680, I got a 700, I got a 740, and you think that that's the credit score they're going to use because that's your highest score, that is not the one they're going to use. They're going to use your middle score. Yes, your average score, your middle score is the one that they're going to use. It's not your average, but it's the one in the middle. They're going to use that one. So you have to understand that when you're building your credit, you have to build all three of them. But always know if you're going to buy a house or be a real estate investor, you're going to use your middle score. You also have to understand that as if you're buying a house, that your debt to income ratio has to be different. They're not looking, like a credit card really doesn't look at your debt to income ratio. Car loans looks at it a little bit, but a mortgage company looks at it tremendously. Usually, your debt cannot exceed, and these are things you have to pay for, not your grocery bills, things like that. But your debt cannot exceed 30 to 40% of what you make, depending upon the mortgage company, depending upon the bank. 30 to 40%. Now, if you're getting a VA loan, then you can go up to 50% sometimes. But it only goes up to about 30 to 40%. Most of the time, it's around 40. So the mortgage that you acquire cannot exceed your debt to income of 40%. Therefore, if you have a bunch of credit cards and a bunch of car notes and things of that nature, things that you have to pay for, revolving lines of credit, loans, that's going to be your debt to income ratio. And those things are more difficult for them to get you a loan. So if you're looking to buy a house, you have to begin the process of reducing your debt to income ratio. All right. These are the things that's going to bring about a balance in this nation and in this world, owning your own property. It's going to help bring that balance. Now, let's go through a few things. How do we get there? That's the question. How do we get there? You're in debt. You're in a bad situation. Your credit's not great. First, like I said, my Financial Alchemy book shows you all the ways that you can fix your credit. Challenging everything on your credit, but you need a 609 letter in order to challenge it. Do not use the challenge format that is on the 3 credit bureaus website. Don't use those. Do not use the one that's on Credit Karma and all these other places. Do not use those. You need a 609 letter. It has, and there's a certain aspect of your 609 letter that has to be written in blue ink. Write it in blue ink. Do not write it in black ink. Do not print it out and just have it as type. It needs to be written out. If it's not written out, it automatically goes into their machine. Their machine is going to spit it right back out and say, yes, this is correct. But when it's written in blue ink, it spits it back out and it forces a human to look at it. When a human looks at it, they have to recognize that it tells them that there are certain things they have to do based on the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And if they don't do it, then they have to take those things off your credit. How to challenge things that, how to challenge when there are, not so much challenge, how to ask for forgiveness when there are inquiries. Inquiries can take 3 to 11 points off your credit, but just because they're there, and they'll remain there for 7 years, you can request for those to get taken off, but you need to know who to send them to and what type of letter that needs to be sent in order to get these inquiries off your credit score. All these things are very important in order for you to get your credit down. But one of the things that this guide also teaches you is my 70-10-10-10 plan. And this is something that everybody needs to understand. What good is it? Because you can go to any credit fix-it program. They can piggyback you onto someone else's credit card, and then you'll be able to increase your credit score. And that's great. You increase your credit score by piggybacking on someone who has great credit cards, and your score jumped up. But you have no idea how to budget your money and how to live your life. And so after you go out and you buy a car and buy this and get a credit card and all these other things, because you don't have the financial literacy to maintain it, your credit winds up being back in the crapper within a year. And then you're back paying those companies again. Now, there are companies that you can utilize to get you to give you some credit, and you'll be able to get credit cards. Those are in the guide as well. It's very easy. It's not a problem. But the problem is, after the effect, you don't know how to manage your money. Well, within that guide, it talks about my 70-10-10-10 plan, which is the fact that you need to reduce the amount of things that you have to pay for. This does include your groceries, your utilities, and all those sorts of things. So understand there's a difference. When a mortgage company is looking at your debt to income ratio, they're not looking at groceries, they're not looking at utilities. But in the 70-10-10-10 plan, you need to be able to live off of 70% of what you make. If you get your household needs down to 70% of what you make, then you can start doing all the other things that helps you to build wealth, build your credit, and as well as establish yourself in a house or become a real estate investor, whichever your choice is. That means 70% of how you live your life, all your bills, you only live off 70% of it. Then 10% of what you make goes towards your fund. I'm going to put that one out first. Goes to your fund. You need to have fun. Having 10 years, 5 years to 10 years of just saving money, you're going to falter because you're going to become frustrated. You need to have a little bit of fun. You need to go out on some dates. Your family environment is very important. Your mental health and being able to de-stress is very important. So 10% goes into your fund. Then another 10% is going into your savings account. Now this savings is for saving for something. It could be, and depending on who you are, you can save for a vacation, you can save for a car, you can save for a down payment on a house, you can save for any of those things. But if you're looking to buy a house or become a real estate investor, the savings can go to that as well. And then the last 10% goes to your investment. This is your investment account. You want that 10% going there. That 10% can as well be used for saving for a house, a down payment, or investing in the down payment for a real estate, and saving for a down payment on a house or a rental property, either one, or even a flip. But 10%, If you're maxing that out, then 20% is actually going into, if your goal is to buy a house, 20% is going into buying a house, 20% is going into real estate investing. So those are your options. But that 70-10-10-10 will put you in a position where you're able to buy a house in a short period of time. So you have to understand that I can fix your credit. All of you right now can call me. Everybody listening to this can call me. Everybody listening to this can not only, everybody who's listening to this can also, you know, you can email me, you can buy the guide and all those things. But if you find yourself a few months later back in the same situation, or a year later in the same situation, what good was it? It served no purpose whatsoever. So when I say to you that you should maintain, you got to learn how to maintain a budget, you have to learn to maintain a budget. Now, beyond that, after we finish that, after you get on the budget, after you understand things, this little column right here is how we need to understand financial literacy, right? I'm not going to take all the credit for this part. This part right here comes from a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. It's one of the greatest books I've ever read in my life, right? This book changed my life. It changed my entire financial life. And from it, other financial ideas and thought processes have grown. But basically, there are 7 cures to a Lien bank account, and there are 5 laws of money. They do coincide, and we're going to speak to these things based on a real estate perspective and buying your own property. All right? So when we look at them, number 1 is 10% of what you earn is yours to keep. Now, both of them have that as number 1. 10% of what you earn is yours to keep. You give 10% to the government. You give 10% to your charities. You give 10% away just frivolously on things that don't even matter. But 10% is yours to keep for your investment, for your betterment, for your future. So we have to get that into our mindset that we must save 10% of what we earn. The next one, under 7 cures, is control your expenses. That's why we get into the 70-10-10-10 plan. 70-10-10-10 is right there. We'll get into the 70-10-10-10 so that you can learn to control your expenses. When your expenses are out of control, you will never be able to buy a house. The reason why you keep going to seminar after seminar after seminar is because your expenses have never gotten under control. You've tried to keep up with the Joneses. You bought the newest, the latest, and the greatest. You had to get a new car. You had to keep getting, and your expenses get out of control. Sometimes you keep giving it away to friends, giving it away to family, and your expenses are out of control. You think that you keep finding yourself in an emergency, but you're not. You just keep ignoring things, and your expenses, and you spend your money somewhere else, your expenses are out of control. Number 3, under cures of a lean person, invest 10% of what you save. This is where I was saying earlier, 10% of what you earn needs to go into a savings and investment for buying a house. Many times we look at people who come to America and we wonder, how is it that they've been here for 5 years, 10 years, and all of a sudden they own a convenience store or a gas station or a restaurant? Well, what we don't know and don't look at is that they have shown a history. Most of these people, the trend is they save money to come to America. Once they get to America, they save as much as they can in order to buy or open a business in 5 to 7 years. This is a part of the mindset when people come to this country. It has to become a mindset that we have as natives to this country, that we can save our money. Too often, let me put it this way. The majority of people in America have less than $1,000 in their savings account. Have less than $1,000 in their savings account. And I'm gonna tell you this, if you're an entrepreneur, you know this pain. You know this because you're putting out so much money. If you haven't organized your business correctly, then you will find yourself in that situation as well. But the majority of people in America have less than $1,000 in their bank account at any given moment. We are not a saving society. So don't get mad at foreigners who save and then open a business. We are not a saving society. And then I always like to say, we'll look at that 1% of foreigners who come to America and then they build a business. whereas the majority of foreigners who come to America don't. The majority of the people from their country never leave their country, and they sit in the same situation that most Americans sit in right now. So I gotta tell you, we have to change our mindset. If we really want to save this country, we really want to make our society better. If you're in the black community and you want to do something different with your life and have a different future for your kids and grandkids, then you have to be the one to start creating an environment of saving and investing. You have to create that environment of saving and investing for your family. You have to. My other YouTube channel was sketchy a little bit there for a second. But we have to do that. So 10% you have to save. And then you have to guard your money against loss. Look, people, here's the deal. Here's the deal. I've had many people come to me and say, oh, I'm investing in the stock market. I'm going to invest in the stock market. Investing in the stock market is not guarding your money against loss. I'm going to invest in a 401k. You're somewhat guarding against loss, but remember Enron? You remember Enron? Some of you don't remember Enron. We have to understand history. Putting your money in a 401k is putting your money into a business. It's almost like going into the stock market. You're putting it into the company that you deal with, work with, or into some fund that somebody else is managing. You have zero control over it. So you're not guarding it against loss because you have no control over what happens to your money. If the company crumbles, your money crumbles. There was like one story in particular of a lady who had $4 million in her 401k when Enron happened. And by the time the dust cleared, she had less than $4,000. Guard your money against loss. The greatest vehicle that almost every person that I've listened to, that I've studied, have said, there are two vehicles that are the greatest vehicles for guarding your money. One, a business that you own or that you're directly in contact with. See, getting in the stock market, oh, I bought some Tesla shares. You have no control over Tesla. But here's a restaurant down the street. I've watched them for the last 5-10 years. They've been growing. They have some struggles, but I can invest in them. Or if you have the ability and the dynamics and the coaching to create your own company, but you need to understand how to really build a company. That's why I'm doing a program that starts on July 1st to teach you over an 8-week process of how to build a company, how to build it from scratch, and how to maintain it and keep it and everything that needs to be in place so that it does not fall prey to all the things that kills the company. But you need to know how to do that. Now, the other greatest vehicle is what? Real estate. Real estate. It's like Oprah Winfrey keeps saying, that God's not making any more land. The purchase of real estate is one of the most safe vehicles, but also normally will increase in value. There's only been a few times in history where betting against the real estate market has worked out to your advantage. If you've seen the movie The Big Short, that was such a rarity when the real estate market, it was better to bet against the real estate market. So when I'm telling you to guard your money against loss is to put it into real estate. One, the house that you own. Every time you make a payment, you're building equity in that house. So if something happens, you can pull from the equity. You lose a job, pull from the equity. Your company is suffering, pull from the equity. You have a major medical issue, you can pull from the equity. As long as you own that property, you can pull from the equity. If you're renting it, you cannot pull from the equity. If you're renting an apartment, you cannot pull from the equity. Only if you own it can you pull from the equity of it. If you are buying rental properties and you have an issue, you can pull from the equity again. You will also be able to increase the rent every year in order to guard your money against inflation. Inflation is the biggest killer for people who retire. You work 30, 40 years, you retire, you got the gold watch, you got your 401k, and you get your retirement pay. But your retirement pay is about half or a little less than half of what you was originally receiving. Since it is, now you're pulling more money from that 401k because inflation is continuing to grow. You're also pulling from it because you probably bought a house later in life, or you've been flipping houses, switching houses. I shouldn't say flipping, but switching houses. And later in life, or you downsize. And here's the problem with that. Back in the day when the 401k was thought about, it was thought about in the terms of how people would buy a house in their 20s and they live in that house and they die in that house. By the time you get to retirement, that house is paid off. You don't owe anything on that house. But now we're 40, 50 years old, 60 years old, buying brand new houses. That's a 30-year mortgage. You're going to be 90 years old, still with a mortgage, 80 years old, still with a mortgage. But now you want to retire, and inflation is beating your tail as far as your 401k and Social Security is concerned, and your retirement check. So the way to guard against it is to own rental properties, and every year the rent increases. The rent increases, keeping you balanced from inflation. That is guarding your money, guarding your investment. Number 5, make your home an investment. Everything I just said, make your home an investment. Be able to pull from the equity. If you're renting, your home is not an investment. You need to make your home an investment. Ensure future income. Buying rental properties. You own a rental property, you can increase the rent every year. You own a house that you buy the house you live in, you have equity in that house, you take some equity out, utilize that equity to buy additional rental properties. Now you are becoming a real estate investor. You can increase every time. You can increase every year. And then you take the equity from that one and you buy a couple more. You take the equity, you buy a couple of more and buy a couple of more. After you have about somewhere between 5 and 10 properties, for most people, 5 to 10 rental properties will, all of a sudden, that money is more money than you were making on your job. Now you don't need your job. Now you can live off your investments, and your investments is continuing to grow. You still have more and more money to invest. So buying rental properties, buying the house that you live in, can be the catalyst to you being able to buy rental property after rental property after rental property after rental property, 5 to 10, and you don't need to work anymore. And here's the thing, I know people say, I don't want to be a landlord, I don't want to have to deal with people, what if they move out? You have to go into it with a business mindset to say that you're going to be getting 80% of what you think you should be getting. So let's say just easy numbers. You have 10 rental properties. Each one you rent for $1,000. All right, that's $10,000 a month that comes in. All right, that you expect to come in. Your total mortgages for these 10 properties is, say, I don't know, $5,000. Right? All right, and I'm just throwing numbers out there. Of course, the numbers are going to be vastly different, and you have to make different changes based on what your situation is. But $5,000 is your total mortgages for all these properties. You pay your management company 10% of the total. That's another $1,000. So, all right, is that $1,000? Yeah, it's another $1,000. So that's $6,000. That's $6,000 out the door. You have to have the mindset to say that only 80% at any given time, only 80% of your mortgage rent is going to come in, because maybe 2 of them are not rented this month, 2 of them are not rented the next month, 2 of them are not rented 2 of them. Now that's not normal. It's not how it usually would be, but let's just put it out there. Just have that mindset. So you got to say to yourself, well, only $8,000 is coming in. I'm only paying $800 to the real estate company. So yeah, my mortgages are still $5,000 for all of them. So yeah, you make a nice little sum of about $3,000 and some change goes into your pocket, right? Now, that's what an 80% mentality. Of course, to have all 10 rented out and you get the whole 10,000 coming in, 6,000, 4,000 is in your pocket, that's even better. But you always have the mindset of 80% fill rate. Hotels base their budgets on 80% fill rates. Apartment complexes base their budget on 80% fill rate. So you got to have an 80% fill rate as you build this real estate company. If you don't have an 80% fill rate mentality, you're setting yourself up for failure if you are budgeting everything based on a 100% fill rate. That's not going to be the situation all the time. It's not. And if your if your rental payments aren't staggered, meaning that, not the payments, the leases aren't staggered, meaning that this person started in July, this house started in September, this one started in December, where there is time frame. All of them don't come for renewal at the same time, is my point. That would be a better situation for you. So you have to have that mentality. But that's how you would, you make your home, you insure against future income, is by doing that. And then number 7 is increase your ability to earn. You cannot walk through this in fear. You cannot walk through this in fear. Sure, you're going to have some bad renters. Sure, you're going to have to evict some people. You're going to have to repair some things. Those kinds of expenses are going to happen. But if you increase your ability to earn, that means you're constantly you're adding enough homes until you're in a safe spot, right? So for some people it may be 10. For other people it may be 20. There was a young lady who was 80 years old that I had met back in 1998. She owned 180 rental properties. She was beginning to sell them off, but she owned 180 rental properties, and that's what her and her husband had built. Her husband had passed on. She now wanted to retire from it all after running it by herself for the last 10 years. But she had 180 rental properties. 180. It took time to do it. One of my real estate mentors, he has 53 rental properties. Those 50, and he has a formula. He taught me his formula. But his 53 rental properties are all paid for. None of them have mortgages on them. They haven't had, and it took him 15 years to get to that point where all 53 don't have a mortgage on them based on his formula. He increased his ability to earn by continuing to buy enough property until he had enough to take care of his needs. And you have to think about it in that way. At an 80% fill rate, how many homes do I need putting out? How much cash do I, in order for me to be able to live? Do you need $10,000 a month to live your life? And that's the question. How much money? And I want you to really, really think about that. How much money do you need every month to live your life? You know, for some people, if they have $5,000 coming in every month, they're good. They're good. 5,000. And let's say and here's a basic form. This is the basic of how my the mentor I had does his real estate. He invests in lower income homes, basically, but he'll invest in one that needs some rehabbing, fixer upper. If he saw a house that was for sale for say $40,000, $50,000, $40,000, right? And he would have his contractor look at it, and his contractor would say, well, it's going to cost you about $20,000 to make the house habitable. Now, before I said it has $40,000 house, it's going to cost $20,000 to fix it, but the house already has a value of say $80,000. So there's enough equity in the house to get a HELOC loan and be able to fix up the house. He would then also look at the fact that in this area, how much can this house rent for? Let's say the house can rent for $1,000, right? Whether it's Section A, because a lot of his homes are Section A, but let's say it's $1,000. And he would say to himself, if someone is paying me $1,000 and the total investment is $60,000, will this house be paid off in 5 years? If I took the whole $1,000 and paid on the mortgage as well as the HELOC. And if the house can be paid off in 5 years based on the rent, he would buy that house and he would invest in that home. All right. So that's how in 15 years he got 53 houses. Now he had a great start because he owns another company. I'm not going to tell you what the company is because I'll be telling you who he is and I'm not telling you all his business. But he owned the company, and so he had a great start to buy a lot of houses quickly. But just utilizing that formula by itself, if you consistently use the equity in your home and save 10% of what you earn, 10% for savings, 10% for investment, basically 20% of what you earn, and reinvest that money consistently into buying rental properties, there is no reason why over the next 10 years you cannot have, because it does work the same way as compounding interest, where the first one will be a little slower, then the second one comes, then the third and the fourth come faster, the fifth and sixth come faster, the seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th come faster. There's no reason why in 15 years you couldn't have anywhere from 10 to 20 houses and pretty much all of them are paid off. All the mortgages are paid off. Now imagine if you had 10 houses and there's no mortgage. It's a totally different story than the version I just gave you a little while ago. You have 10 houses with no mortgage, then you're talking about the fact that $10,000 is coming in the bank every month. $1,000 goes towards your real estate firm, and then you put maybe $1,000 back every month for emergencies when a hot water heater goes out and that sort of thing. You do that every month. After 12 months, you got $12,000 saved up for repairs for any of your home, and every year that increases. So now you're putting $8,000 in your pocket, $8,000 in your pocket every month. Now, for most people, most Americans, $8,000 a month is plenty of money to live off of for most Americans. The question is, are you patient enough to take the time to do that? Now, this is where the 5 rules of money come back into play. We already said the first one was 10% is yours to keep. The second one is employ your money. Put your money to work. This is how you put your money to work. You save that money, you put it to work, and then you let it keep working, keep working, keep working. Take the next 10, 15 years to buy these 10 homes, utilize them in the same program that I just, process I just said, as far as making sure they can pay themselves off over a certain amount of time, whatever your time. His was 5 years. Maybe yours is 7 years. It depends on your level of patience and the level of houses you want to buy. You let it roll that way until it's bringing you enough cash to quit your job, and maybe that takes you 15, 20 years. But if you're 40, 20 years, you're only 60 years old. That's it. If you're 50, you're only 70 years old. Americans are living well up to 90 and 100 years old nowadays. So if you're 50 and you go through this process, and by the time you're 70, you have 10 houses throwing you off whatever that amount of money is, and they're all paid off. And of course, inflation has happened. When you bringing in $12,000 a month that's going into your pocket, you're not worried about major issues. You're not getting up at 4 in the morning so you can catch the early bird special all the time. You know, you don't have to go and shop and be so low budget. You can live the same life you were living previously. You just have to have the patience to do so. And this is where number 3, wise counsel is required. Go into all these little programs that tells you how to flip houses real quick and how you can make this fast money and fast money and fast money and fast money. You need wise counsel. This is one of the reasons why I became an agent of real estate, because I recognize that people are walking around without wise counsel. And I say an agent of real estate instead of a real estate agent, because most real estate agents just want to buy, help you buy and sell a house, and they just trying to get their commission out of it, and that's about it. They'll find what's good about the house, what's bad about the house, but not too much, because they don't want to decrease the value of the house, because they want their commission. My goal is to help you to buy a house that you can have some equity already built into it, so that you can then invest that equity into furthering your economic power in the community and in your life and in your family. If you don't have economic power, then no one is listening to you. There's a reason why companies have lobbyists, because they recognize the power of economics. We have to build economic power. So wise counsel is imperative. And if you like this wise counsel, fixing your credit, getting on a budget, being able to invest in the home that you live in, being able to invest in future revenue, and always guarding against inflation, then let me be that wise counsel for you. Or purchase my book, Financial Alchemy, so that you can start working on your credit and your finances on your own, and then come to me when you're ready to invest in real estate and invest in your own home. Now, number 4, a fool and his money are separated. Now, you guys know that saying, a fool and his money is quickly parted. Every time I went to one of those real estate seminars, that thought was always on my mind. Look at all these fools, and let me see how many of them will be parted with their money. Like I said, even the people who run these programs know that only 2% of the people who buy in, understand it, first, only 2% of the people are going to buy in. And then only 2% of that 2% are actually going to utilize and do the program. A lot of these programs cost you $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 once you get involved in them. And most of these people will never do the work that is required in order to do what the program says you should do. These are fools and their money being separated from one another because they walked into it looking for impossible gains. As I said before, if you don't have the patience to build a financial empire over the next 20 years, you are a fool. It sounds hard. It sounds mean. It sounds rough. Good. It should. I want it to. Because if you don't have that understanding, then you will consistently circle the toilet bowl of financial ruin. And as long as you're circling that toilet bowl of financial ruin, you will never have power to stand up and say how you demand to be treated. Do you understand that? You, unfortunately, in this country, we're not treated based on just being human. In this world, we're not treated based on being human. You are definitely treated differently based on your financial standing. Based on your financial standing, you are treated differently. I saw like a quick little thing with Dave Chappelle, and he was saying that he got pulled over by a cop. And once the cop recognized who he was, he let him go. Think about that. Usually, you're a black guy, I pulled you over. Pulling you over, I'm going to be a cop. But you're Dave Chappelle. I'm going to let you go. How many times do we see wealthy people get off? Wealthy people are not treated the same. If I drove into the wealthier areas of Atlanta, even being a black man, driving to the wealthier areas, and let's say they're driving, let me reframe it. If as a black man, if I drove into the wealthier areas of the wealthier white areas of Atlanta, because there are wealthy black areas in Atlanta as well, wealthier white areas of Atlanta, and I am dressed the way I'm dressed, driving the car that I drive, I'm not going to face the same harassment that if I was in a lower income area of Atlanta. Driving the exact same car, I'm looked upon differently. Driving the exact same vehicle in a lower income area of Atlanta, I'm probably a drug dealer. I'm probably a sex trafficker. I'm probably something of that nature is the first thought process. Driving in another area of town like Alpharetta, then I'm probably a homeowner, I'm a business owner, I'm probably a high income earner in that area, based on how I'm dressed in the vehicle that I'm driving. You are judged not based on your character, but based on your outward appearance and your economic appearance. And that's just the reality of it. And we have to change. It would be great to say we shouldn't be, but that's just not reality. And we have to change how we are. We have to first change our economic situation so that we can then start changing the actual reality. So that people say, well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. He's on the south side, but we know that the majority of people on the south side over here, they own their homes. So he might be a homeowner over here, which means that he may have some say with the voting. He may have some say with the police. He may have some say with the school and the education. So we have to get these things in our mind and stop being parted from our money because we're looking for these get-rich-quick schemes. No one gets rich quickly. It took Warren Buffett 20, 30 years to become Warren Buffett. So we have to be patient. We have to look at it with wise counsel. And the last one is impossible gains will empty your wallet. Impossible gains will empty your wallet. I love it when people come to me and they say, man, I went to this house flipping program and they saying that in a year I could be making 6 figures by flipping houses. And I say, what's your credit score? Man, my credit score is 460. How much money you got? I don't have no money. I don't need any money because I'm going to use investor money. Here's the thing. I'm an investor. I don't know you. You come up to me and you say you got a contract for a house. It may be valid, but I don't know you. I may ask you some questions. I may listen to how you talk. Listen to what you know. How many houses have you invested in? How many houses have you flipped? Oh, this is my first one. And you're trying to use my money. I don't know you. Why would I trust you? Now, if you came to me and I didn't know you and you're like, hey, I got this opportunity, I'm, flipping this house, and you flipped other homes before, you have a track record, I might be more inclined to work with you. But if you've never done it before and you come to me and you look like financial shambles, why would I listen? Why would I trust you? Why would I deal with you? I wouldn't, unless I was just solely just looking at the deal. Is it a good deal? But usually we don't buy people. Okay, in my marketing programs that I teach people, I always tell them, people rarely buy your product for its product's sake. We usually like to buy from people that we like. If I don't like you, I'm less likely to buy a product from you. But if I like you, then I'm more likely to buy a product from you. This is why when they tell you to go out there and you get the contracts and you got to get your investors, you got to go and befriend these investors. Let them know that you are serious about your game. Now, what's one of the best ways to let investors know that you're serious about your game if that's the process you want to take? One, be in good financial standing. Own the home that you live in. Have a decent to great credit score. These things will make you more appealing to any investor that you want to approach. Even when people approach me and they say, hey, I want to buy a house. What's your credit score look like? Go get pre-approved. How much money you got saved up? Oh, I don't have any money saved up. Oh, my credit score is 500. And I want to just find a house first and then I go get approved. I'm not working with you. It's just as simple as that. I'm not working with you let me rephrase. I'm not working with you as far as we finna go start looking at homes, we finna start looking at investment properties. We're not doing that. No. I'm going to say, hey, I have a book, a guide that you can purchase for $19.99. Go to CoachRenz.com, the store, and get the Financial Alchemy Guide. Do your 609 letters, do all your other letters that you need to do to help build your credit, and then get on a budget and save some money. How much house do you want to buy? Oh, you want to buy a $200,000 house. You're not a veteran, so you're going to be looking at FHA loan or a Sallie Mae or one of them. So you're going to need either somewhere between 3.5% down and 10% down. So let's say we could get an FHA loan once your credit score is over 580, where you're going to need 3.5% down. If you want a $200,000 house, that's $7,500 that you're going to need down. Let me know when you got that. Let me know when your credit score is there, and let me know when you save that. Now, I'll help you along the way. We can talk from here and there, but we're not signing any contracts or agreements until we get to that point. Why? Because it will be a waste of my time. You haven't shown that you are serious about your business. When you're serious about your business, I can work with you. Why would any investor who is out there buying and selling homes, flipping homes, work with you if you're not serious about your business? Time is the great equalizer. We all got the same amount of time. We all have right now. We all have the next second if we survive right now. That's the only thing that's equal. There's nothing else is equal in life. So get over thinking that it's supposed to be equal. It's not, and it never will be. But what we can do, we can find equality, more equality, when we are financially literate. Because when you're financially illiterate, then all you look for is someone else to come in and save you. You look for someone else to do something to benefit you. But they don't want to, because you're just going to waste it anyway. Why give to someone who's going to waste it? I would not. And so in order for us to make this country a better place, make this world a better place, everyone has to be more financially literate. Everyone needs to own their own home. Everyone needs to be a better practitioner of managing their finances. Everyone needs to guard against financial loss. Your future income is in jeopardy. So security is in a crunch, is being crushed. Companies are not doing retirements like they used to back in the 70s and the 60s and the 50s. It is up to you to maintain your financial stability for your longevity of life. And you will have a long life. I look forward to you having it. I'm here to help you. I hope this video has helped you a lot. Like I said, go to my page, Coach Renz, R-E-N-Z. Go to the store, get the Financial Alchemy Guide. That's a great start for you to be able to build your credit and to manage your money. When you're ready to purchase a home that you are going to live in and or investment properties, give me a call, Agent Reed. Give me a call from Remax Metro City Side. And I'll be more than happy to help you build your financial empire, build a situation where you don't have to work anymore at the job that you have. Or if you are working, you're working because you just love what you're doing, which is an amazing thing to just love what you're doing. But we can do that. So give me a call and we can do that. We can make that a reality for you. So I look forward to it. Contact me. You can email me at thereidfirm@gmail.com. And I look forward to working with you guys. And y'all have a great day. Remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good vibrations, good journey.